So RAS is dropped into your environment, and we normally try to follow this type of a pattern. So we try to keep 3 layers, if you will, when we put this solution into your environment. So in one layer are all of the users sitting on their endpoints, their laptops at home, their workstations in the office, their thin clients, wherever those might be deployed, and they need to connect to a Windows application or a Windows desktop that's sitting somewhere else. Those machines that they're connecting to could be anything from Windows Server 2012 R2 and up, Windows 10 11 machines, and as I mentioned before, they could be virtual machines or physical machines, single session or multi-session, it doesn't really matter. Somewhere in between these two things, in between the users and the device they're actually connecting on and the apps and desktops they're trying to get to, is where you put RAS. Okay, so RAS sits somewhere in the middle, and we have two primary components. If you're familiar with Citrix, for example, you're probably familiar with terminology like delivery controllers or storefronts, right? Or if you're familiar with RDS platforms, you might know things like web access gateways or connection brokers. We have similar components, and the two main ones are called secure gateways and connection brokers. The gateway is the doorway into the system. That's what all of the endpoints will be connecting to, whether it's through a public IP address, NATed through a firewall, goes through a DMZ. At some point, the user is going to land on a secure gateway. The secure gateway is really a request response type of uh, role. It receives a request from the user. It needs to give a response back to the user. So it is the liaison to the environment. It is the only thing that the users can connect to and the only thing that they will see. But the gateway itself can't make decisions. It doesn't understand what's going on in the environment. It really focuses on that doorway role. It encrypts and keeps the connection secure, but it doesn't have any logic. The connection broker, on the other hand, is really the brain of the system. It knows what's going on in the environment. It knows what you as an administrator have configured for your settings, your policies, applications that users can see. It also knows what's going on with all of the hosts in the environment, so it can know which ones are busy, which ones aren't, which ones are down right now, which ones are available. And it can help make that decision for the gateway. So the normal flow would be that a connection comes into the gateway. The gateway asks the connection broker what to do with that connection, and the connection broker sends a response, and the gateway will post that back out to the user. Some of the choices might be that request is not authenticated, so send the user a login prompt. That request was a request to launch Microsoft Word, and that is configured to run on this host. So create a connection to this host and tunnel it back securely to the user. So that's how it would typically work. Our two roles are software based. You just download the installer and run it on a Windows Server machine, and those roles will run on Windows Server 2016 up to 2025. Because it's software based, you can actually install those roles on the same machine if you want to. Um, this is a pretty common environment for testing or for small customers that are, say, under 250 concurrent users. It's also very easy to duplicate those roles on multiple machines to add high availability or redundancy. In this case, you see I have both roles running on 2 machines. So if any particular machine were to go down, the other machine has both roles. So now I have a layer of redundancy, and I've added a load balancer in front of this environment. You can also separate those roles and put them on separate machines so they can be on their own host. And that gives you a lot of flexibility in, say, complex networks where you have multiple subnets, or you might have domain boundaries that you want to try and enforce. The gateway roles in our platform do not need to be domain joined, but the connection broker, which has a lot of access to what's going on in the host, it can authenticate users to your domain controller. It knows how to send requests out to an external identity provider. It knows how to manage MFA prompts, things like that. Those are special machines that need to be inside the network and have domain access, where the gateways don't. So you can deploy these in an environment that gives you a domain boundary here. It's also very flexible. You can support things like a DMZ. So we have a load balancing appliance that comes as part of the product if you don't have your own type of load balancing, or you can also use load balancing on the firewall or any edge device. It's also possible to deploy our gateways in the DMZ. And we also have roles for forwarding machines and things to make all of these various topologies available to you. So let's take a quick shift and talk about how our product is gaining some traction in the market because some of the complexities and the frustrations that customers are having with Citrix right now. Some of the key points that we're hearing from our customers, we've had quite a few. A big portion of our business in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, has been people looking for an alternative for their Citrix environment or an alternative for their VMware situation or their platform. One of the biggest complaints is the complexity of a Citrix environment. It takes time to build those environments. They have a lot of moving pieces, and sometimes the customer didn't need that complex of a solution. So they've got a very complex, very difficult platform to maintain, and all they really needed was an easy way to get to remote apps or to remote desktops. Another challenge is that it's very expensive. So the cost of ownership and uh, the barrier to entry for a working Citrix environment is expensive, right? It takes lots of training. It takes some very specialized training. You don't spin up a Citrix environment overnight, so the time it takes and the cost it takes to get that expertise is quite expensive. Also, with the licensing changes that are happening in Citrix right now, we see a lot of customers that are looking for alternatives because as their contract ends, to be able to shift to the new licensing model is just very cost prohibitive for their business. From our perspective, again, we try to keep things simple, simple to deploy, simple to administer. So that takes away a lot of that complexity. And you'll see when we look at the admin side of things in just a minute, you'll see what I'm talking about. So our focus on a simplified administrative experience, some of those advanced features built into the product that are needed in a lot of these cases, just takes away that complexity. We already talked about our licensing. So not only is it very simple because it's a concurrent model, it's a very simple model and we only have one, it's also competitively priced. So our cost is usually much cheaper than a lot of other vendors' products. Um, it also includes support and the ability to work with a lot of complex architectures without having a complex solution. It's also hybrid by design. So instead of having to shift to a hybrid model and take your on-prem environment, shift part of it to the cloud, have a cloud control plane, data servers in one place, workloads in another, RAS was built from the ground up to be hybrid by design. So we try to be platform independent. We try to be hypervisor independent. So it's very, very common to have a RAS solution that provides workloads in the business, on-prem, in the data center, in a colo, also with workloads in the cloud, or have a centralized control plane to manage multiple environments. Those are very common, and we work with AVD, we work with Amazon EC2. We have people working with environments on GCP or the IBM cloud even. It's a very flexible product. So there's no additional licensing for that complexity. As a summary, some of the things that we highlighted on, um, hybrid by design is the way RAS was built. We have a single licensing model with a simple cost. It's easy to deploy. It's easy to maintain. Um, and it's easy for your end users to connect. So we'll look at that too when the users are connecting. So you don't have a hard endpoint management is also not difficult because we have a few different ways users can connect.